Yeah, well, let's go back for a minute, Mika, to that Secret Service story I was telling you about. And on the phone, we have Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter for the Washington Post, Carol Leonnig, who wrote a book last year specifically on the Secret Service. Carol, I want to get to this whole thing about, Secret Service agents never use never use texting because, of course, you've written about several Secret Service members who lost their jobs because their text messages were actually read. But this is what I don't understand from your story. Why would the Inspector General know a year ago that the text messages were destroyed on the 5th and 6th of January by the Secret Service and then consider telling Congress, but end up actually stonewalling Congress? It now seems like not only do we have a scandal inside the Secret Service, we now have a cover-up that may be extending to the DHS. What in the world is going on here?
Such a good question, and you're right, because I don't answer that question in the story, Joe. There is a lot of context and backstory to the Inspector General for the DHS. First off, he was appointed by Donald Trump. Second off, he's been trying to hold on to his job under Joe Biden, but also sort of stay underneath the radar. He's been criticized for failing to properly investigate a lot of things that happened under the Trump administration. And I think about a year ago, I wrote a story in which his staff had gone as whistleblowers to Congress complaining that he had blocked them from investigating the Secret Service role in helping Trump forcibly remove protesters from Lafayette Square in June. The Black Lives Matter, George Floyd protesters, a vicious removal, forcible, and also just for Donald Trump's photo op. IG Joseph Kafari also blocked another Secret Service investigation into January 6th and their role in that, in the planning beforehand. So there's a lot of problems. The fact that he did not report that these texts were purged in February has a huge potential impact, a negative impact on investigators, because time is your enemy when you're trying to reconstruct anything. And now people that I've interviewed, techies I've interviewed, who are trying to figure out how can we find these texts, how can we recover this critical evidence for January 6th, they say that if they had known in February, it would have been a lot easier.
So Carol, not only did Trump politicize the Secret Service, and we've all talked about how that happened, putting his person in a key position, but it appears now that he politicized even the role of the Inspector General inside the Department of Homeland Security that's supposed to oversee the Secret Service. So it seems as if the entire Secret Service process of oversight has been corrupted.
Well, Joe, when Bill Rucker and I wrote in our book, I Alone Can Fix It, one of the devastating things that we learned, and I think this is coming out very clearly in the January 6th committee hearings, although maybe not in every detail, we learned that every agency had been a plaything to Donald Trump. How can I use it for my gain? A very Nixonian kind of presidency, right? Not how can I use it to make sure I put some points on the board and help my citizenry? How do I help my political goals by actually helping the public? But really, how do I help me? And every agency had that corruption, essentially, by Donald Trump. I use corruption not in a criminal context, although I think it's becoming clear there were crimes. I use corruption in the sense of he tainted all of them. At DHS, the acting secretary was viewed as so corrupted that the staff did not want to involve him in conversations about January 6th because they couldn't tell whether he was in the tank to try to help Donald Trump execute a coup. So that's kind of how bad it was.
Well, Carol, thank you so
incredible.
much for calling in. And it just, you know, in this conversation, Joe, I'm reminded of something General Hayden said a few years ago, and that is, you know, when we were talking about the strength of the U.S. government against fascist tendencies and whether or not America could hold up. And he said something that really stuck with me, and that is the government, the U.S. government is made up of institutions. The institutions themselves are made up of people.
Yeah.
And that's where different weaknesses and influences can be tainted.
Well, and this is such a problem, and the thing is, people have been polite and dancing around it for quite some time. But I know when the Biden administration was coming in, there were people in that administration that were very concerned about the incoming president's safety, and it was they were concerned about Joe Biden's safety because the Secret Service had been so corrupted by Donald Trump. It's something that we heard, we haven't said anything about because you don't know. Again, talk is loose in Washington, D.C., and even inside the White House. But here you have, again, one more example of the Secret Service. Again, they destroyed texts on January 5th and 6th, even though 3 warnings.
Come on.
And then the Inspector General, who should be calling them to account, knows about this and doesn't say anything to the United States Congress. It is, again, when they know that the Congress has also demanded these texts from the Secret Service. I mean, the corruption there, man, they're going to have to clean that place out. Whoever's at the top of the Secret Service, this is an extraordinary fail, and it extends to the DHS. It really does. What in the hell? The Inspector General should be called in front of Congress tomorrow.